The alien took one look at the human pet and nearly had a heart attack. Zara stepped into the diplomatic quarters aboard the massive trade station orbiting Kepler 442b, her forearms carrying various data tablets and ceremonial gifts. As the lead xenobiologist for the Altarian Council, she had studied dozens of species, but today marked her first official contact with the mysterious humans who had recently joined the galactic community. The human ambassador, a tall woman named Lisa Carter, greeted her with what Zara had learned was called a smile. Behind Lisa stood another human, smaller in stature, with golden hair that caught the artificial light. "Welcome, Ambassador Zara," Lisa said, her translator device converting the words into melodious Altarian tones. "I hope your journey was comfortable." Zara's large, multifaceted eyes focused on the second human, who remained silent and still. Something about the creature's posture triggered every alarm in her enhanced nervous system. The way it held its head slightly lowered, the positioning of its hands at its sides, the patient waiting stance, all of it screamed one terrifying reality that made her twin heart skip several beats. This was a predator in a submissive display. "Ambassador Carter," Zara managed, her voice translator struggling to mask her growing panic. "Might I inquire about your companion?" Lisa glanced back at the blonde woman with obvious affection. "Oh, this is Amy. She's my partner and security liaison. Amy, say hello to our guest." Amy stepped forward with fluid grace that made Zara's skin crawl with recognition. Every movement was controlled, economical, perfectly balanced. When Amy extended her hand in the human greeting gesture, Zara noticed the calluses on her palms and the slight scars on her knuckles, marks of a warrior who had trained extensively in hand-to-hand combat. "Pleasure to meet you, Ambassador," Amy said softly, her voice carrying an undertone that Zara's sensitive hearing picked up as barely contained power. Zara reluctantly extended one of her slender appendages to complete the greeting ritual. The moment Amy's fingers made contact, every instinct screamed danger. The human's grip was gentle, almost delicate, but Zara could feel the strength hidden beneath that careful control. She could sense the coiled tension in Amy's frame, like a compressed spring ready to explode into lethal motion. "The pleasure is mine," Zara replied, fighting to keep her voice steady while her minds raced to process what she was witnessing. Lisa led them to a comfortable seating area where refreshments had been prepared. As they settled into their chairs, Zara continued to observe Amy with growing fascination and terror. The blonde human positioned herself where she could see all entrances to the room. Her eyes constantly moved, cataloging exits, potential weapons, and defensive positions. When a service drone entered to refill their drinks, Amy's hand moved slightly toward her hip before she stopped herself. "Amy has quite an impressive background," Lisa was saying, apparently oblivious to her partner's predatory nature. "She served in our military for 12 years before joining the diplomatic corps. 3 tours in active combat zones, multiple commendations for bravery." Zara nearly choked on her nutrient solution. A veteran predator. This explained everything. The hypervigilance, the controlled movements, the way Amy seemed to assess every object in the room for its potential as a weapon or shield. "How fascinating," Zara managed. "And now she works in diplomacy." "Amy specializes in protection services," Lisa explained proudly. "She ensures our diplomatic missions remain safe, especially when we're exploring new relationships with species we don't yet fully understand." The irony was almost too much for Zara to bear. Here sat an apex predator whose job was protecting other humans from potential threats, while being introduced as a diplomatic companion. The cognitive dissonance was staggering. Amy leaned forward slightly, and Zara instinctively pressed back into her chair. "Ambassador Zara, I've studied your species' cultural preferences. I understand that Altarians value personal space and prefer minimal physical contact during initial meetings. Please let me know if anything makes you uncomfortable." The consideration in Amy's voice only made things worse. This predator was actively monitoring her prey's stress levels and adjusting her behavior accordingly. It was either an incredibly sophisticated hunting technique or genuine care for Zara's well-being, and she couldn't decide which possibility was more terrifying. "Your thoughtfulness is appreciated," Zara replied, her translator adding a slight tremor to her words. As the formal meeting progressed, Zara found herself studying Amy with scientific fascination despite her fear. The human's eyes were a pale blue color that seemed to miss nothing. When Lisa mentioned trade agreements, Amy's gaze sharpened as she analyzed potential security implications. When discussing cultural exchanges, Amy tilted her head in a gesture that Zara recognized as a predator evaluating new territory. But what truly unsettled Zara was how Lisa treated Amy with such casual affection. She touched Amy's shoulder when making points, shared inside jokes, and clearly viewed her partner as a source of comfort and protection rather than danger. It was like watching a small herbivore cuddling with a sleeping tiger. "Amy, could you show Ambassador Zara those cultural integration reports we prepared?" Lisa asked. Amy rose with that same fluid grace and moved to a nearby workstation. Zara watched in horrified fascination as the human's movements revealed more signs of her lethal training. Her footsteps made no sound on the metal floor. She maintained perfect spatial awareness, never turning her back completely on the room's occupants. When she leaned over to access the computer interface, her posture remained balanced and ready for instant action. "Here are our preliminary analyses of Altarian social structures," Amy said, returning with a datapad. As she handed it over, their fingers brushed again, and Zara felt that same controlled strength. Lisa beamed at her partner. "Amy spent weeks studying your culture to ensure our interactions would be respectful and productive. She has quite a talent for understanding different species' needs." Understanding how to hunt them more effectively, Zara thought with a shudder. As if sensing her thoughts, Amy met her gaze directly. For a moment, Zara saw something flicker in those pale blue eyes. Not malice or hunger, but something far more complex. Intelligence, yes, and the capacity for violence she had detected, but also something that looked almost like empathy. "Ambassador," Amy said quietly, "I hope I haven't done anything to make you uncomfortable. Sometimes humans can be overwhelming for other species, especially those of us with military backgrounds." The admission caught Zara off guard. Amy was acknowledging her predatory nature without seeming threatened by Zara's obvious fear. It was as if she understood exactly what she was and had made peace with it. "Not at all," Zara lied smoothly. "I find human social dynamics quite fascinating. From an anthropological perspective," Amy smiled, a genuine expression that somehow made her even more terrifying because it revealed perfect white teeth that looked entirely too sharp. "I'd be happy to discuss our social structures if you're interested. Military units develop some unique cultural practices that might provide insight into human adaptability." The casual way Amy discussed what was essentially pack hunting strategies made Zara's skin crawl with professional interest. This predator was offering to explain her tactics willingly, perhaps even enthusiastically. As the meeting continued, Zara began to notice other details that painted an even more complex picture. Amy's hands bore a thin scar across one palm that suggested blade training. Her posture indicated extensive hand-to-hand combat experience, but she wore no visible weapons and seemed genuinely committed to the diplomatic process. When Lisa mentioned their upcoming mission to a potentially hostile system, Amy's expression shifted to one of protective concern rather than excitement for potential combat. "The Rigelian Collective has been resistant to diplomatic contact," Lisa was explaining. "They view most species as potential threats and have historically responded to first contact attempts with aggression." Amy nodded thoughtfully. "We'll need to approach their territory carefully. Their ship designs suggest they prioritize offensive capabilities over defensive ones, which might indicate a culture that values decisive action over prolonged conflict." Zara listened with growing amazement as Amy analyzed the military implications. While simultaneously strategizing ways to minimize conflict, this predator was using her hunting instincts to protect rather than attack. "Amy has helped establish peaceful relations with 17 previously hostile species," Lisa said with obvious pride. "Her ability to understand potential threats allows our diplomatic teams to address concerns before they escalate into conflicts." The revelation hit Zara like a plasma bolt to her consciousness. Amy wasn't just a predator. She was a predator who had chosen to become a protector. Her lethal skills had been repurposed into tools for peace. It was the most human thing Zara had ever encountered, and it both terrified and impressed her beyond measure. As their formal meeting drew to a close, Amy approached her one final time. "Ambassador Zara, I wanted to thank you for your patience today. I know first meetings between our species can be challenging, especially when cultural differences create misunderstandings." Zara looked up at the blonde human who had inadvertently revealed the true nature of her species to alien eyes. Amy was indeed a predator, but